Welcome to the Kids Entertainer podcast. We've got an amazing episode for you today, and one that I know is going to be really useful for you if you have a website, because it's all about getting engagement on your website, getting more people looking at your website. And the best part about it is it's really fun to do. And I'd like to welcome Joanne McGowan. Welcome to the Kids Entertainer podcast.
Hi there.
The reason we invited you along is I picked you up at a recent, I guess, professional development conference we were at for kids and family entertainers, and you were lecturing about starting and running a blog. I know that there was a buzz in the room after you'd finished speaking. People were really excited about what you'd shared there, and that's why we asked you on here. But I wonder, could you kind of paint a little bit of a picture of who you are, your background for our listeners?
Yes, certainly. I run a children's party and activity business called Act One Adventures, which I've run for the last 6 years. Before that, I ran a dance school, and with both of these, I've always used sort of a lot of online development. So my dance school was one of the first to have a website, and then with my party and activities business, I've always been involved on social media, and I've had a blog for quite some time now. They're just all great ways of engaging and keeping you in your customers' minds as well.
That's really good information. And you're right there, because it's about forging a relationship with your customers. You know, they're not just there to buy once. You hopefully want to develop that relationship, that they're going to come back for the siblings and the brothers and the sisters and the christenings, and to entertain the kids at the wedding and for the corporate Christmas party. And in order to develop that relationship, you need to be touching base with them. And by blogging, that is a way to do it. So I guess your experience of blogging comes from running your businesses and seeing that benefit for yourself then.
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's as you say, it helps keep you in people's minds, and it sort of builds up that relationship, and can also add value to your services as well, because blogging can cover a lot of areas that perhaps are common questions that your clients ask you, and you can cover that all in a blog, and it makes it look extremely professional that you've thought of these things already before your customers even ask the questions of you.
You know, you're speaking about blog, and I know from the forums and speaking with other children's entertainers, looking at the kind of comments that come in across the Facebook groups, that there's maybe a different kind of basically, people may be in different kinds of places. You may be out there listening to this, and when you hear the word blog, this kind of wall goes up, and you think, oh, that's technology, and that's all really, really difficult. And I know we're going to be looking at that in a moment, about kind of what is the barrier to entry? How easy is it to start a blog for somebody that is maybe not technically or computer-minded? And then the other side of it is that there may be some of our listeners that have kind of started a blog at some stage and gone ahead and set up a blog and then done two posts on the blog, and it's the last one 3 years ago, and it's kind of sat there really becoming stale. So I guess there's something in there for everyone. But should we start off with what is the technical barrier to this? It sounds terribly complicated, I have to be honest with you.
Well, I use something called WordPress, which I know probably a lot of people will have their websites hosted, on a WordPress site. So a lot of people will be familiar with WordPress already. So they may well be doing their updates to their core pages already. And actually running the blog is exactly the same. And it is just basically like typing in a Facebook status. You basically put your content into a box. And from there, you can just hit publish, and that blog will go up, and it will be on your website, and it will be there, and that's it in its basic form. It's as simple as that. There's obviously then things you can do from there. You can add photos very easily, and you can also sort of optimize the post to include sort of keywords. And to make the SEO on it really, really good as well, by sort of including tags and stuff like that. They're all sort of sound very technical words, but again, they're all very easy things to do and to add onto your blog post. But actually just writing a blog and posting it is literally as simple as posting a Facebook post, which I'm sure most people are familiar with doing these days.
Yeah, and you make it sound so easy. And for my understanding of the word blog comes from weblog, and it was kind of goes back to the newspaper days where people would want to start publishing their own stuff,
Yeah.
and it was terribly complicated in those early days. And a free to use platform came up called WordPress, which was open source and free for anybody to use.
Yeah.
And they've been going for years and years and years, and
Mm.
they've developed it to such a point that it really is drag and drop, just
Yes.
click and
Yeah.
install easy. It's so easy. And
Yeah.
what I'll
Very
do in the
easy.
show notes for this is I'll pop in a little link that I have of how you can set up a WordPress site in less than 5 minutes. It takes
Yeah.
you through how to do it. It's free of charge. You
Yeah.
don't have to pay anything, and it'll show you
No.
how to do that. So I'll put that in the show notes to show you how easy that is. And
Yeah.
what you're saying, Joanne, is to publish a blog is really as much as type it in
Yeah.
Word and copy and
Definitely.
paste it over.
Definitely, and I mean, there are other platforms available. I know people that use Blogger and things like Weebly. So I suppose it's finding, like any of these things, finding the one that works for you. But I've always used WordPress, and it's always been very 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 good for me. And I've always found it very straightforward to use. So yeah, I would totally recommend it.
And I guess there's two ways of integrating a blog into what it is that you already offer. If you're not running a WordPress site, and you maybe have an HTML site or a site where you're not really sure how that site was made, that's not going to stop you making a blog. You can still set up a separate WordPress blog, and you can actually put a link into your site.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
you can still go ahead and get some information here from
Yeah,
Joanne and
because
go and put that in.
last year I transferred my whole my whole website over to WordPress. But before then, I had just a sort of HTML site, and I just ran a separate WordPress blog. And as you say, I just had a link between the two, so people would still maybe find me through the blog, but they could easily then click through to my website and find sort of all the other details there. So it's certainly, if you haven't got a WordPress site, it certainly shouldn't stop you from having a blog and just linking it through that way.
What's great is this feels welcoming to all. Then it doesn't matter. Don't have to have any technical knowledge. And you mentioned words like SEO and tabs and all that, which I know we'll get to when we start looking at tools and how we put all this together. But I feel a lot more confident of understanding what a blog is. That sounds easy. Now I'm all excited. Now I want to do it. So I guess the next question I would have is. All right, so I'm willing to maybe put in this half an hour a week that I'm going to do to write this blog post. What's it going to do for me? Why should I be doing this?
Well, there's a number of benefits to blogging. I suppose one of the main benefits is how it can help with SEO, search engine optimization. Basically, by having a blog, and if people are clicking through to your blog, that's all then hits on your website, which then all helps for people to to increase the amount of people that are coming to your website, which is going to help with your search engine optimization. And also, when you've got a website, you tend to sort of get your core pages up. You'll spend a lot of time writing the content for those web pages, getting it right, and you're not going to be changing that the whole time. You're going to get that right, and you're going to probably stick with that for quite some time. And that's great to start with, because Google will find that because it's new. But then that content will start to age, and Google won't find it quite so easily. So what a blog does, if you blog regularly, then it's providing new content for Google to find. And it's basically like your website just sort of standing there and waving at Google and saying, we're still here. Come and take a look at what we've got going on. And because you're blogging about your business, you're going to be naturally using keywords, and the sort of things that parents will use to search to find you. And quite often you'll find that a blog post will come up above your sort of one of your core pages, and parents will click on that, and then they're on your website. They will find their way to your core pages that give them info on how to book and that sort of thing. So it's definitely great for making sure that Google remembers you're there, and therefore good for your SEO in that way.
Wow. That's really, I love the way you said it, of kind of the page getting stale and it having less and less interest for Google. Why should it come back and visit? But if you've got new stuff that you're publishing, Google lives on content.
Yeah.
That's how it works. You've got these
Yeah.
spiders that go out and crawl all these websites. And when it finds new content, it's indexing that page. It's just giving you another chance to be found on Google. And when we hear these words like SEO, they can be so scary, it can sound so terribly technical, but the best practice for SEO is just putting on good quality, usable content
Yeah.
that is associated with what it is that you do. So if you're a face painter, you might run a blog talking about the faces that you paint, or the parties that you
Yeah.
visited, or the tips and tools that you use, and all that kind of stuff. And you're naturally creating that interest in Google, and you're naturally getting your website seen more. And I guess at the end of the day, Joanne, we're kind of lifting ourselves above our competitors.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, it's quite often, I sort of, things will come up that I've blogged about above other people's websites and above my own website. So, it certainly does work in getting you seen. And also as well, when parents click through and they're seeing you're writing about something to do with parties, with authority, and you know what you're talking about, then that obviously gives them added confidence that you know what you're doing and that you're a good choice to book. So it sort of gives you a bit of expert status, and that can only be good for increasing buyers' confidence in what you're selling. Across the board, whatever business you're in, but particularly with children's parties, it's a big decision for parents as to who they book for their little one's special day. So it's brilliant for that as well, for sort of giving you that sort of expert status in your industry, and that certainly is good for customers to see.
It is, and it's really, really important, because again, it's an opportunity to set yourself apart from your competitor,
Yeah.
I guess, by making yourself the authority within that marketplace. Somebody who just has a 5-page website of who they are, a couple of pictures and the services they offer. And if you've got loads of pages all about parties and what happens at parties and showing your expertise in that, you're going to stand out head and shoulders.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, Joanne, when you were giving your lecture, you kind of spoke about the kind of emails you get and the messages that you
Yeah.
get from parents thanking you for
Yeah.
the stuff you're putting out.
Well, I quite often do, just before the school holidays start, I'll do a little roundup of activities on my blog of stuff that's going on in the local area that I think, the parents that use my services would find useful. And, I've had several people say, oh, that's been brilliant. And I had, it was quite a funny story in that I was in town with my son, just having a coffee in a cafe, and a mum came over and said, oh, are you Joe from Act One? And I'm like, yes, that's me. She goes, oh yes, I follow you on Facebook. But she said, I just want to say, love your blog. We tried some of the Easter activities you suggested, and they were brilliant. They were spot on for my children. She said, oh, that's really good. And she said, my son's got his party later in the year, so I'll be in touch when we're looking to book that. And took my business card, and obviously she felt comfortable coming over to speak to me because she felt she knew me. And that's another thing that the blog can do. It can show your personality off really well, and then the people that are reading it do feel like they know you. And so much of our business is about our personality, and people feeling comfortable with us, and feeling that we'll be a good fit for their family at a special occasion. So that can really help with new customers seeing that and getting to know you a bit better. But also as well, because I've suggested activities, she's done them, and they've been, they've really enjoyed them. Then it gives you that expert status. You know what you're talking about. You know what families enjoy doing. So you're likely then to be able to show them that you're going to do a good party for them, because you know the sort of things that they like and that they're wanting from this sort of thing. So yeah, it's amazing actually. It's sort of I was quite astounded when she came up. It's like you sort of think, oh my goodness, it is actually, people do find value in it, certainly.
And you were obviously at the top of her mind. She came over to speak about what she'd read on your blog, but she immediately linked that with, oh, when my son's party comes up.
Exactly.
So you're creating that link, and that is a really powerful thing in terms of marketing. The interesting thing, I heard a statistic, and I don't know if I'm quoting this 100% correct, but the feeling behind it is right. And that statistic was that somebody needs to see your message or engage with your branding 5 times before they will take real notice.
I think it's at least 5 times. I think it can be sometimes, up to sort of, in the sort of teens amounts of times before they actually then use you. So it's quite staggering, that really, that you've got to keep reminding people that you're there, even if they've used your services before. Because if you suddenly vanish, then they think, oh, you're not doing it anymore. Whereas if you keep sort of giving them good content and show that you are still very much around, then they are going to remember you, and hopefully use you when the time comes.
What's coming out for me, and as you're speaking about this, is it also, I guess, gives you an opportunity to speak about the other services that you may offer. So
Yeah.
let's say, for instance, that somebody booked you for a birthday party to come and
Yeah.
entertain the children. Well, it may well be that you do corporate days
Yeah.
and other stuff. And I guess on your blog, you get that opportunity because you're
Yeah.
touching base with people to bring across all those different services that you offer, which at the end of the day helps your customers because they don't have to go looking around for someone else. They go,
No,
oh, Joanne
exactly.
does that as well. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I'll remember that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that came up for me is that when we write a website, and this is maybe something for the listeners to go and do, go look at your website. So often a website is written not in your own voice. So it's written of such and such a does this, as opposed to I do this and I do that. But a blog is very unique. It's very personal. It's
Yes.
very your own voice. So it's a whole different engaging on it. It's almost like they know you and you can share a little bit
Yeah.
more of yourself, whereas websites tend to be a little more structured and professional in the way that they're
Yeah.
approaching. I like it. And this is all great stuff. I think everybody's sold. Now we all want to start these blogs now. And I guess you go ahead and you write this blog and you set up WordPress because it's nice and easy to do, and you write your first blog post. How do you actually get this post seen by anybody?
Well, what I tend to do when I've written a blog, I will then sort of share it across my social media channels. So I tend to it will go on Facebook, it will go on my Facebook page, but then quite often with a blog, because it's useful content and it's stuff that people are going to enjoy reading. You can quite often then share it in sort of Facebook groups that you might belong to, so local parents groups, that sort of thing. So all of my my holiday roundups and stuff like that, I share across like all the local parenting groups and that sort of thing. And sometimes these groups will be quite strict about what you can post. They won't allow you sometimes to post a direct ad, or they'll only allow you to do that on certain days. But actually a blog post that is sort of not overtly selling, but is actually sharing useful content, they'll allow you to post, and they'll actually be very grateful that you've posted it. I'll put it on Twitter. With Twitter, what I tend to do is I'll schedule up links for the week of various blogs that I've done. Once you've got the blog, a lot of the content on there will be relevant forever, really. So I'll keep resharing stuff, and people still see them. People click on them, people retweet them, people favorite them, and these will be blogs that I've written several months earlier, but they're still relevant. There's, you can, if you're on Pinterest, if you're on Instagram, any of these channels, you can easily sort of share, a picture of your blog with a link on it, and it's all then going to help drive traffic back to your website. And the good thing about the blog is that it sort of works in the other way, in that while you're sort of sharing that on your social media, it's actually then providing content for your social media as well. So it's giving you something to post. With a lot of my blogs, I'll then sort of repurpose the content. So basically break it down. So if I've done one that's all about basically tips for running a successful children's party, then I'll break them down and do like a tip a week. So at the moment, I've been doing that. I've been sharing that as either a text post or as a little video of me sort of talking about the tip. But it provides content for all of those social media channels. And again, that's another thing that some people struggle with, is finding new things to put regularly on your social media and finding the time to do it all. But actually, blogging and social media can actually help you save time on both. Just by blogging regularly, it will provide content for your social media channels as well, which can only be a good thing as well.
It's a big win because I can relate to sat there in front of my Facebook page thinking, what am I going to post? I've got to
Yeah.
post something.
Yeah.
And God forbid we should start posting what our cat did or what we had
Yeah.
for dinner, putting pictures of our breakfast on, because it's about getting stuff out there that is useful to our audience.
Yeah.
And if you're taking the time to put that into to your blog, you can
Yeah.
recycle that across your social media. You can point the links back to your blog, so you're getting the eyes on your blog. You spoke about sharing it in the mums and tots groups. This, go do yourself a favor, listeners, get into mums and tots groups, go look around. You'll just see loads of questions and look at those questions to guide you in what kind of content you're going to write in your blog. Because if they're asking the questions, why not be the place where people are going to
Exactly.
find the solutions
Yeah,
and
I mean,
share the links?
I've seen posts where people have asked, over the holidays, people will say in a local group, oh, is there anything on for kids under fives? And then, rather than just going on and saying this, this, and this, I just put on and say, I take a look at my blog. I've got 10 ideas for you. And it's people like it because it's saving them the work of having to trawl Google themselves to find stuff to do. It's all in one place, and they're clicking through to your website. And that is just, your brand is then straight in front of them, and hopefully they'll remember you when they need your services as well.
And I'm recognizing that once you've got the message out there, once the page is posted, if it's got valuable information on it, you'll find other people will start sharing that for you as well.
Yes.
So now you're going to find other mums in the Mums and Tops group saying, oh, I know what you do there. Go and have a look at this article, and they'll be sharing and creating backlinks into your website, which is one of those other elusive search engine optimization terms. But links back into your website basically just means you've got content out there that somebody else is saying, hey, go and have a look at this. And it just rises you up all the time. And I can think of no better recommendation than somebody posting your article as being an expert, somebody going and looking at that and then seeing the services you're offering. You just, once again, it just puts you streaks ahead of your competitors.
Yeah, indeed. And, and you'll find when you start blogging that other sort of local companies or stuff that relates to you may well ask you to do a guest blog for them, and again, then you're posting on their site, which is taking you to a different audience. Again, it's creating a nice little backlink to your site. So again, lots of different things can come out of it when you start running a regular blog and, getting yourself established. And say, the sort of possibilities are endless with that.
When you say a regular blog, how often should we be looking to put content out?
Well, I try and blog at least once a week. Optimally, I would really love to do it twice a week. That doesn't always happen, but once a week I aim for. I think the thing is to keep it regularly. Once a week is great. If you can't manage that once a fortnight or once a month, at least you will be getting new content out there. But the thing is, a lot of people will sort of blog, 2 or 3 times in a short space of time and then do nothing for months.
Yeah.
And then, that sort of is very sporadic, and it's not going to be enough really for it to make any sort of major difference with your SEO and all the other benefits we've talked about. So trying to do once a week would be absolutely brilliant. It would get you off to a really good start, and you would start to see some results within a few months. I've got sort of no doubt about that, really. But so just as regular as you can is the key, really.
I have a question so let's say we're aiming for once a week here, because I'm feeling really pumped for this now. Here I am, deep breaths, and I'm into this blogging. How long does it take you to get a post, get it on and published on WordPress, and maybe put that across your social media?
I would say that it would take me sort of about half an hour, sort of maximum 45 minutes with sharing it and posting it out and that sort of thing. So it's no time at all really in your week. When you consider probably how long we procrastinate on things like Facebook and stuff like that, it's no time at all. And actually, for me, the writing part doesn't really take that much time at all. I'll have an idea or know more or less what I want to put, and so just get that down. It's then just all the stuff making it look better, like adding a photo and making sure it's formatted so it's easy to read and that sort of thing. It's all that sort of stuff that you fiddle around with and can sometimes take a little bit of time, but it does get easier and it does get quicker the more you do it. It's like anything really. I suppose if you're introducing a new trick into your show, the first couple of times you perhaps practice it, it's going to be clunky and it's going to take you a bit of time, but the more you practice it, the more that becomes very easy and natural. And the same applies with sort of anything online with technology. It's just learning how to do it, and then once you know, it just becomes quicker and quicker each time you do it.
I'm just thinking, 30 minutes, it's one soap opera a week that you have to drop.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
exactly.
next time you're watching that soap opera, feel guilty, feel
Yeah.
very guilty. Go to your computer and post a blog because it'll
Yeah.
take you 30 minutes. Speaking about the benefits of what this brings you in terms of that engagement, lifting you above your competitors, being seen as the expert in your field from your customers, getting links into your website, search engine optimization, good quality content. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
This is something that we should all do. And you don't need to look far outside the niche of entertaining children to see this is what big businesses do.
Yeah,
Go to
indeed. Yeah.
any business, you're going to see they've got
Yeah.
a blog. Why?
Yeah.
Because it works, guys.
Yeah. And that's the thing, with big businesses, we sort of, you sort of think, oh, that everybody knows about them. But the reason why everybody knows about them is because they keep telling us about them. They keep advertising, they keep marketing what they're doing, and they're using all the different channels. Obviously, they've got a big budget and they can afford to sort of outsource most of that out, but they're doing it for a reason. They wouldn't be spending the money on this stuff if it didn't work and if it didn't actually produce return for them. So yeah, it's definitely worth doing.
So no need to reinvent the wheel here. Just look to the big industry of
Yeah.
what's working for them, and we can do the same too
Yeah.
in kind of less than an hour a week,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
And not having a big barrier of technology to break
No.
through, because it
No.
really is push button simple. So I guess, okay, so I've got this. I'm going to now definitely publish a blog. You've convinced me, Joanne.
Yeah.
Where am I going to find stuff? Because I really don't. I'm going to run out of stuff to post. Where am I going to find stuff?
Well, I always find, for me, it's never a problem actually finding ideas. I've always got loads of ideas for blogs. I mean, it's just fitting them all in and that sort of thing. I think possibly a good thing to start with like your first blog is always maybe talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, maybe give people a bit more of an insight into what you do and why you do this as a job, because you're probably not going to get that much information across on your main website, and people they like to know about the people behind the businesses, so that's a good place to start. And then I would say probably think about some of your frequently asked questions. I'm sure we all get asked the same sort of things time and time again. I certainly get asked by parents a lot of the time about food and, how long they need to leave for food and when they should do it, or what sort of things work well. And this week, that's what I've done. I've done a blog about children's party food and, given insight into, quantities and that sort of thing. Because for a parent, that can be really daunting. We are at parties. We know what works and what doesn't. So we can easily put together a list of 5 tips. So anything like that parents, quite often are asking is going to make good content. Thinking about local stuff going on, as I say, those local things to do posts do exceedingly well. One of those posts, the Easter one, had 500 people click through to my website on one day to look at this post.
In a day.
So in a day, and that and obviously then that tails off as the holidays go on, but it's still a lot of people going to your website. So stuff like that, anything, arts and crafts ideas for kids, activity ideas for kids. If you've done something that you think they would enjoy, blog about that. You can also go a bit sideways. I'm planning to do over the next couple of months a sort of a post on kids starting school and things you can do with helping them, and ideas for teachers, as presents for end of term. So think about things that the people that you are buying from you, that they will find useful, that problems that they may have that your blog post could solve. So giving them ideas as to what to get the teachers at the end of term. If they click on that and they see an idea they really like and that solves a problem for them, they're going to remember you in a good light. And again, that all helps with your brand awareness and with your sort of customer relations as well. So never be afraid to think a little bit laterally. Think it's got to be very customer focused and what you think they will enjoy and get value and from reading on your blog.
That was really helpful for me because when I was thinking, I've got to create content now, my part in this children's entertainment niche is I do children's magic shows. So I was thinking, how long can I write about magic shows? But I don't need to be writing about magic shows. I don't even have to stick 100% to parties, you're saying? As long as it's... So it's about providing content that your target audience are going to find engaging and useful. And we know about our target audiences because we're there
Yeah.
all the time working with them. We kind of know what age they are. We know they've got children of a certain age. So
Yeah.
it's about finding what is interesting for them and what
Yeah.
they will find useful. And I guess looking around at mums and top groups, looking at questions as we've
Yeah.
already covered. What are people asking? I know that what we do is we subscribe to a whole pile of newsletters, mums and tops newsletters. We're interested in what kind of stuff they're writing about because we can go, hey, that's a good idea. I loved your roundup idea of taking what's local because that is, by the very nature of putting that out, going to give you search engine optimization
Yes.
for local keywords. If you're speaking about
Yeah,
stuff that's happening
exactly.
in your
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
on
And
your
also as
side.
well, when I've blogged and done a roundup of that, then when I've tweeted it out, I've sort of included the people that I've recommended. So if I've recommended a local museum or something like that that's got an event going on, I'll sort of tag them in the post, and then they'll quite often retweet what you've posted because you've given them a mention. And again, it builds up a good relationship with another local business that's sort of targeting the same ages as well. So it all just helps build up those connections as well. And what you were saying about the mums and tots things, looking at those forums and stuff and seeing what it is that they're asking, that can be a great place for inspiration. And also pick out any sort of topical stories. That can be great for blogs. There was the story at the beginning of the year of the child that didn't attend the party and then got a bill in his school bag from the parents that were running it. I think it was at a ski centre, and they billed this child because he didn't attend, and he said he was going to attend. So I blogged about that, about what people's thoughts were on that, and how to get RSVPs back and to make sure that this doesn't happen. So sometimes just taking inspiration from that. Again, you're an expert in your field. You can offer an opinion on that. And it's something that parents will find interesting. And we then got quite a debate going on Facebook as to, what was that the right thing to do? What would you have done in that situation? So again, that then helped with getting engagement on your social media as well. So it's amazing how it can just work for lots of different areas that you're focusing on.
It's interesting because it's indirect marketing because what you're speaking about there and getting all the people talking
Yeah,
and bringing up those topical conversations, you're in there and your name is in there. So
yeah, exactly.
although they're not even thinking kids
No,
party or booking, but you're
yeah,
there. And the more time, it's very subliminal, isn't it? That
yes, exactly.
it
Yeah,
goes back to that lady who walked up to you and
yeah,
the second thing out of her mouth was, oh, and when my son's party comes up, I'm going to get hold of you.
yeah,
This is an absolute must. And I know that it can sound scary for some people. I'll tell you where I fall into the I'm embarrassed now, I'm blushing away merrily as I say this. I fall into the camp of people that started a blog for my kids entertainment business, and I don't think I've updated it in over a year, and I
yeah,
feel embarrassed about it. I actually hide it away from my main menu because I don't want my clients, when they visit my website, to go, oh, I wonder what's happening in latest
yeah,
news. Latest news 2013.
yeah.
so
Yeah, and
so
that's the thing. You have got to sort of, if
yeah.
you've got to sort of try and keep it updated, especially if you are doing it as a sort of latest news thing. But I think the more you do it, the more you get into doing it, and it just becomes part of your weekly routine then. And you set aside that sort of 30 minutes to an hour to do it. And you don't. And what can really help is making a plan, just going in your diary, and then sort of writing down. Right, this week I'm going to blog about food. This week I'm going to blog about choosing a venue. This week I'm going to blog about going back to school, tips for getting back to school, and that sort of thing. And you will find that there will be certain things that will crop up in the diary where you'll see naturally. Obviously, leading up to Christmas, you can do stuff about Christmas activities, and you will find that then that starts to sort of help with ideas, and you'll have a plan in place, and therefore you'll just look at your diary and think, right, that's what I'm doing this week, because that can sometimes be the problem. Is if you haven't got an idea, or if you've got too many ideas, it's then sometimes choosing what you're going to do next. Whereas if it's in the diary, you're like, right, that's it, that's what I'm going to do, and it makes life a lot easier then.
Here's my commitment. Live on the Kids Entertainer podcast, I commit to get my blog resurrected. I'm going to share with you why I left it. it was because I wasn't really sure why I was doing it. And
Yeah.
just speaking to you, you've made it very clear what the benefits are
Yeah.
of having a blog. You know,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, you've got to have a blog. Why? Because somebody said
Yeah.
it somewhere, you know, but I
Yeah.
wasn't really clear on just what it can do.
Yeah.
And just speaking to you, it really is a no-brainer. You know, I want to hire you. I'm sure everybody out there wants you to come and sit in their office and write their blogs for them because of how it's going to benefit. And we can't do that because you're in the UK and we're all spread throughout the world. But I know that you've actually taken your time and you've actually written a book. And not only have you written a book about blogging called BlogOff, I love that name.
Yeah.
You've written a book on blogging specifically aimed at children and family
Yes. Yeah.
entertainers.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I chose the term blog off is because quite often, people do react a bit like that when you say you need to start a blog, because people sort of view it as just another thing that they've got to do and that it's going to take up more time. But actually, as we've talked about, it can save you time in other areas, and it can get everything working sort of cohesively and with your website and your social media as well. And yeah, so it is specifically designed at children's entertainers. There's lots of examples in there as how it's worked for me and how it can work for other children's entertainers. But there's also in there a list of blog ideas, specifically based on our industry, sort of 10 blog titles, as it were, that you could just go away and do, and then you'd have 10 weeks worth of content if you're going to blog each week. And it talks about specifically how to promote the blog, and yeah, all of this is geared towards our industry. Most of the theory applies across the board, whatever business you're in, but it's always nice to get some examples specifically for what you're doing, because that can often inspire you with other ideas as well.
I know that we spoke that there might be some tools that people can use.
Yeah.
Are these mentioned in your book?
Yes. Yeah, some of them are. I mean, one of the biggest tools that I use, which is not just good for blogging, but it's good for your social media and just for doing sort of basic promotional stuff, is an app called Canva, canva.com,
Yeah.
Canva. And that's a photo app. And basically you can sort of upload photos to it, or you can use some of their photos. They're either free or just $1 per photo. And then you can stick that on. It will size them to exactly what you want them to be used for. So if you wanted one for a Facebook post or a blog post, you can sort of just choose the template. So you pop your photos in, you can add text, you can add backgrounds, and it's free and it's brilliant. And again, it's one of these things to begin with, you have to invest a bit of time playing around with it. But the other day I created a sort of image for an event I'm doing, and it took me less than 5 minutes to do. It was just so easy, and that was job done. So that's a brilliant one that is just great for across the board for any sort of promotional activity. Within your blog yourself, there's something called Yoast, which is a search engine optimization plugin, and it basically tells you whether the SEO of the post is good or not. And you can sort of enter your keywords and all that sort of thing, and it will tell you whether the SEO is poor or good or fair, and then it gives you tips suggesting how you can improve that. So it basically tells you what to do to improve the SEO on that post, whereas before you'd sort of probably be stabbing in the dark a bit, but this actually gives you the sort of the tools that you need to do that successfully. So they're my sort of two favourite ones. I mean, there are loads of plugins available for blogs. You obviously don't want to overload it with that, but there's stuff that you can put in that make it easy for people to share your blog on social media channels and all that sort of thing. So, but they're probably my two favourite things that I use.
That is great value. And I know at the lecture where I saw you at the convention, there was a buzz after you had spoken. I know that the people were rushing up to get hold of your book because they saw the value in that. And one of the things I found really interesting is because we broke for lunch just after your lecture, and I was sat at a table with some fellow professional children's entertainers, people that are out there doing this for a living. It's how they pay their bills, and
Yeah.
they all had a copy of their notes, of
Yeah.
your notes, next to them because they see the value in that.
Yeah.
And you're speaking just about those tools that you share in your book, and you're speaking about Yoast SEO. And I will share, only this last week I looked at getting an SEO specialist in to come and have a look at my website. and it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of dollars to hire their services. And here you are, you're getting this information that's going to do the same job. It's going to
Yeah.
get your site seen. It's going to get you in front of people. You've got free tools in there that are going to help you with your search engine optimization. It's a no-brainer. I just want to thank you. You've inspired me. You've made me want to get out the. I'm ending this interview and I'm going and having a look at my blog, and I'm sure our listeners are too. So, Joanne, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your time with us today.
That's okay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.